Welcome back to Spirit Level. And now, before we talk about war and if it is ever justified, our reporter Pádraig O'Driscoll looks back at the life of a priest who served and died in World War I.
Over 200,000 Irishmen fought in the blood-soaked fields of the First World War. Serving among them as chaplain was an Irish Jesuit priest from Dalkey in County Dublin, Fr Willie Doyle.
So Willie was given the rank of captain, and he was in the 16th Irish Division with a number of different units within that. He was involved in some of the major battles of the First World War, particularly the Battle of the Somme, for which he was given the Military Cross. He was also involved in the Battle of Messines Ridge, and also the Third Battle of Ypres. Major General Hickey, who was his superior, wrote a letter to his father and said that the 16th Irish Division was one that had very, very many brave men, but the bravest of all was Willie Doyle, because he regularly went over the top of the trench out into no man's land and rescuing wounded soldiers and bringing them back into safety.
The youngest of 7 children, Fr Willie Doyle was brought up here in prosperous circumstances just outside Dalkey village. I have come to meet the current owner of his childhood home. Hello Keith, I'm Pádraig. How are you? Thank you very much.
When my husband Keith and I moved into Melrose in 2008, we were met by previous owners who lived nearby, and they left us this wonderful photograph of Father Willie. Well, we found this under the floorboards, as our electrician did when we were rewiring, and I'm absolutely convinced it has to be one of the soldiers that he played with his brother, because it's wonderful. It's a bit split now, being quite elderly.
And it evokes that time, doesn't it?
Doesn't
at the start of the last century,
yeah.
On the 15th of November 1915, Fr Willie Doyle received his appointment from the War Office as chaplain to the 16th Irish Division. Whenever there was a lull in the fighting, Willie Doyle put pen to paper and wrote to his father.
I was conscious of a terrific explosion and the thud of falling stones and debris. I thought the drums of my ears were split by the crash, and I believe I was knocked down by the concussion. But when I jumped to my feet, I found the 2 men who were standing at my left hand stretched dead, although I think I had time to give them absolution and the last sacraments. The poor fellow on my right was lying badly wounded in the head, but though a bit stunned and dazed by the suddenness of the whole thing, I was absolutely untouched, though covered with dirt and blood. It was nothing short of a miracle.
So this is the whole The Jesuit archives in Dublin contain many interesting items relating to the life of Willie Doyle, some of which echo his time spent in the bloody trenches of Flanders.
So Paul, this is Fr Willie Doyle's portable mass kit that he would have used and taken around the front during the First World War. It contains material that he would have found useful to say mass in any hour of the day. Firstly, this would be a missal stand. So he would have had this standing up like this with his missal on it, so he'd read from the missal. If he didn't have a table which to have the Holy Communion and the consecrated host, he would perhaps put altar linen on this. This is a kneeler that he used when praying and saying Mass. And lastly, a huge variety of altar linen that Willie Doyle would have used to say Mass. These would have been put on any movable altar that he could find to give a sense of ceremony to what he was doing.
He was kind to everybody, certainly to the Germans, but also not just to the Irish Catholic soldiers, but also to the Northern Protestant soldiers. It was one who recounted that, Willie came to rescue him on one occasion, and he said, Father, I don't belong to your flock. And Willie's response to that was, no, but you belong to my God.
The Jesuit archive contains saints' relics that Fr Doyle prayed to, as well as more mundane essentials such as soap. Fr Doyle also used instruments of self-mortification. He wished to lead a life that was truly crucified.
Willie died on the 16th of August 1917. There were 2 officers called Marlowe and Green who had gone over the top and were in no man's land. and they were wounded. So Willie did what he always did, which was out over the top of the trench to go out and to save them. And when he was out, a shell fell and killed him instantly.
How would Father Willie Doyle have judged the first great conflict of the 20th century? Senseless slaughter or a truly just war?
Willie certainly didn't like the war. He found it very difficult. He saw suffering at first hand. And in some of his letters, he raises, I suppose, questions about generals who are sitting in their offices moving men around without being aware of the real suffering that men went through at that time.
He viewed the war as an opportunity for him to bring solace to his men in a time of conflict. Specifically, was there an analysis by him of the rights and wrongs of a war? Not necessarily so, but he did say what we're doing to the Germans is just as bad as what they're doing to us. So there was a kind of a duality in that. There wasn't any specific mention of just war or anything like that. He was there to do a job, and it wasn't up to him to judge.
And that report from Pádraig O'Driscoll. And we'd like to thank the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum for their footage of the